Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fabulous with Fabio, the talk show that reviews fabulous people and inspires us to be fabulous as well. My guest today is a fabulous human being, a fabulous coach, consultant, speaker. She's the author of Set Prince. We're going to learn more about that in a minute. She's also a coach for presentations, public speaking. She has helped hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people, to get better in public speaking and communication in general. And she's making a difference one presentation at a time. So welcome, Marsha Freedman. How are you, Marsha?
Thank you, Fabio. And my last name, Freedman, goes along with all of your F's, fabulous. So I'm glad
Fabulous
I could
Freedman.
accommodate.
Perfect. Thank you for being here today because my audience will really benefit from your story, your insights, your tips. I'm sure of that. So let's start talking about you. Yeah. I want my audience to get to know you. Who is Marsha Freedman? How did you become this fabulous human being you are? You're very friendly, very straightforward, honest, transparent, and really easy to work with. So tell me about your values and what are your main principles to be this person you are.
Okay, so you mentioned a few things there. So how I got started, I'd like to begin with that. Let's start with the beginning, right? I had no clue there was even such a profession as public speaking. I'd gone back to graduate school after going through a divorce. I thought it would be great to focus on something else other than my soon-to-be ex-husband. When I got a degree in mass communication, I joined a Toastmasters club. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Toastmasters, it's an international public speaking and leadership organization. Well, I excelled immediately, mainly because I had a strong background due to my bachelor's in education, and I'm very creative. And I also had a lot of time to work on speeches. From there, I was asked to teach college level public speaking. I said, how can I do that? Well, you have a degree in mass communication, but it had nothing to do with public speaking. And I took the opportunity, unlike a lot of women who might say, gee, I don't know how to do that. I decided to do what typically men do. I only felt 60% sure of myself, but I said, what the heck? Let me walk through the store. If it doesn't work out, I could always walk back. And I ended up doing it for about 18 years. And from there, my career coaching and training developed as people would approach me to perhaps train volunteers. I think I did with Make-A-Wish Foundation originally. And then I started saying, hey, this is a lot of fun. I'm good at it. Where else can I go? Fortunately, I knew a lot of people already in Broward County where I reside. And I got introductions, and that's how my career really got started, teaching public speaking and workplace communication. Things like active listening skills, making an I statement, which most people can really benefit from.
That's correct. And listen, everybody, this is raw and authentic as life is. This interview has no post-production, no editing, no cutting. So what you're seeing is what actually happened during the interview. And this is all related to public speaking because in public speaking, right, there's no video production. It's you in front of the audience. You have to be real 100% of the time. There's no time to redo things. So
Right.
that's why it is so important what Marsha teaches because you have to build the confidence and the competence to be in front of an audience and really communicate in a very natural and convincing way. So that's why Marsha's here because she's going to help us also identify how to control our emotions, how to better communicate with other people one on one, how to better listen, but mainly how you express yourself so you can make a difference. So, Marsha, tell me one thing. What is the main thing you want to accomplish when you're helping someone communicate better?
Well, the first thing is to get them, remove them from the fear. I want to take them from fearful to fabulous. Another F's, look at
I
that.
like that.
And I didn't plan that. All right. Because when people are held back, think about if you have this fear, then you don't volunteer, you don't take on a new position because you know you're going to be in the spotlight. And think about the regret and the guilt and the remorse that you have because of that, not just mentally, emotionally, physically, but have it financially. You may be held back from getting that position you really want because of your fear of public speaking. And so I help to move people past that fear. And it's so liberating once it's like a heavy weight on them. And once it's lifted, they typically become really fabulous. I have witnessed this over and over and over again. I also find that people, especially if they're speaking in new environments that they're not used to, Here's an example. I had a coaching client who was a fabulous, fabulous female trial attorney. So most people would say, wow, she must be a really strong, powerful woman. In that context, yes. But now she was asked to be a panelist with 150 women facing her, freaked out because these high placed other panelists were on there, including Oprah Winfrey's producer. She was totally freaked out. And the topic was fear.
Mm.
Right? So I had to move her past that to take the confidence that she had in one context in front of the jury and move it over. Also, I have found that very few people are as detail oriented as I am. So I help them scope out the situation. Okay, how many people on the panel? What are they talking about? Do you have a mic in front of you? Does it have to be passed? Can you make it interactive? What color dress are you wearing? And make sure the curtain behind you is not the same color, right?
That's
So all
right.
kinds of things, minor details that nobody ever thinks about. So I help my clients to find these things out ahead of time when they actually are speaking. Guess what? They feel 95% in control. So I would encourage all of your listeners to write down that number, 95. You notice it's not 100 because nothing in life is 100%. My feeling is if your presentation is well prepared, you know about the situation, you found out about the other speakers, you can handle the other 5% that probably will come up, everything, even to the best of professional speakers. Fabio and I are members of the National Speakers Association. And I remember our magazine, every month, speakers would write in about some embarrassing or freaked out situation that they faced. So no one's immune from it, but if you're well prepared, you can handle it.
Perfect, perfect. And listen, everybody, Marsha is also the founder and president of the South Florida Speakers Bureau. So not only she works with executives, leaders, entrepreneurs, but she's also working with other professional speakers, helping everybody get better in what they do. And of course, offering the best speakers in South Florida to companies locally there, right? So this is so important. And about fear, I have a acronym for fear. For me, fear means fabulous energy to achieve results. So
I love that. Usually it's false evidence appearing real, but I like yours better.
yeah, I like mine a little bit better because I
I like
created it. And of course, for me, it's helping me get more energy because, fear sometimes it's like tension, right? And tension is what you have in the power outlet. You have voltage that's also tension in the technical term. So tension to give you energy. So fabulous energy to achieve result. And what you do for your clients, I really appreciate that, is that you help them overcome fear or have a different meaning for fear. So they use fear as a source of energy and at the same time to be well prepared and understand that nothing is 100%. But if you pay attention to details in advance and you prepare yourself, you can feel in control of the 95% you can control and be okay with the other 5%. Because as we were saying before, right, you don't have to be perfect to make a difference. But if
that.
you strive for excellence, everything falls into place beautifully.
I even have an interesting story about that not being perfect. I remember once starting a workplace communications workshop with people from one of the financial companies. And I started off singing. Now, I don't have a great voice. And it was something like this. Again, this is unedited. War, what is it good for? And inevitably, somebody knows the song from the 70s. And that following line is absolutely nothing. I say, right, but I have my own version of that song, and it goes like this: communication. What is it good for? Absolutely everything. So now, because I don't have a great voice, it actually worked better because people are saying, wow, she really took a risk there. Her voice isn't that great. And I asked them later, what was your reaction? And sure enough, it was what I anticipated. You're like a regular person like me. You're willing to do something
Yeah.
unexpected. It was effective in your message. You were creative and that you took an existing line and you made it your own. So if I had this gorgeous voice, I don't think I would have connected with the audience as well as I did.
That's a very interesting point here. Many people, I believe, they have difficulty speaking, speaking in public because they believe they have to be perfect. They believe they are in the exhibition mode and they have to prove everybody in the room that they are awesome, right? It's not about that. It's about serving the audience. So if people understand that it's about relating, connecting, and serving the audience, they relax and they become themselves, right? And the
Right.
becomes their friend because they don't have to shout. They can speak at a normal voice and everybody will listen because the mic is an amplifier of who they are, right?
I have a great tip that relates to that. So if the audience members would either visually or take a piece of paper and in big letters take up the whole width of a piece of paper, write in capital letters the word message. All right. So after you do that, you see MESSAGE. All right. Now just cross out the first two letters, ME. That's about the ego. So when you're speaking, it's really about your message and the audience. It's really not about you. Unless you're a Miss America contestant, then maybe it's about you, right? So I look around there, I'm like, oh, well, I don't think anybody here, including myself, qualifies. So now we put a circle or more of an oval around the letters SAGE. And I often ask the audience, does anybody know what a sage is other than the seasoning? And somebody says a wise person. The takeaway is take the me out of message. You'll be wise to take the me out of message. So you're serving your audience, not yourself.
Perfect, perfect. And I know that you also created a concept called set principle, right?
A
And
set principle.
it helps. It has helped your clients in public
Yes.
speaking, but also in other areas. So let's talk a little bit about the set principle, please.
All right. Well, the set principle evolved years into my career. The topic of emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman's book, started to come out, and I was really fascinated by it. I think that if I were younger, I'd go back and get a degree in psychology. In any case, I started putting, like a detective, putting pieces together, and I ended up making a chart for myself of our primitive brain, the limbic system, all of the functions. Like, wow, that's really interesting, and that explains a lot. And then all the functions of our modern brain, the prefrontal cortex, and I realized that there was a big problem. Our primitive brain, so let's say somebody criticizes you and they go, what the heck are you talking about? Right? It's really easy to generate the strong negative emotion. Maybe you feel disrespected or angry, but the problem is you have a very short window of time to veto that strong emotion. What happens is if it travels through your brain and it reaches the prefrontal cortex, it limits the resources you have available. And that part of the brain is actually very small. It takes a lot of energy to operate. So I like to use the metaphor about keeping your gas tank as close to full as possible. So your mental gas tank. So if we allow that strong emotion to perforate, to approach the limbic, not, I'm sorry, the prefrontal cortex, then what happens is all of a sudden we forget what we're going to say. We lose control. So just to explain in simple terms, that primitive part of the brain is that fight or flight part. We've all heard of the amygdala, fight or flight. And unfortunately, due to a lot of world circumstances, I think social media is the biggest one, that part of our brain is overly aroused. It was designed to protect us from a lion chasing us, a woolly mammoth about to attack in primitive times. So what happens is if overly aroused, we're often in fight or flight, and that's not a good thing to do. We need to reserve that for really life and death situations. That part of the brain too loves pleasure and it dislikes pain, and that explains why often people, my clients, put off for the last minute to put that presentation together. So I help them find the pleasure in doing it by getting started early. So it's important to know how these parts of the brain work. So SET stands for stop, emotions down, thinking up. So if you do that with your hands, so do that with me. So stop with the same hand, palms down, right? And the other hand thinking up. So you say this to yourself a number of times. And what happens is eventually, maybe half a dozen times, you put it to work, you see how it's great. It forces you to think logically how to resolve a situation or deal with that difficult person. It then now is a new habit. It goes into the autopilot part of your brain. This should be your new best friend called the basal ganglia. It's a really cool part of the brain because if we didn't have it, we'd have to relearn everything every day. So it's a simple system. There's a visual, and I've conducted this program with. I include it in my coaching sessions, but it's also done as an individual program for sales, customer service, even for school age kids. I have a cool rap song to go with it. Very
I
cool.
like the idea of using it in customer service because so many people feel attacked by angry customers, right? And of
Yeah.
course, when they react negatively, it just escalates the situation to a conflict. So if you're able to keep your cool, right, even when under attack, an unjustified attack many times, you're able to provide a better service and be happier in life. So every time anyone is attacking you, remember set, stop, emotions down, thinking up. You're going to make a better decision and, of course, have better results in life and, of course, in family environments as well. So many family members fight with each other just because they don't know about the set principle. If they knew, it would be a uh, much more harmony in the family, right?
Right. And then think about too, it's also a trademark program. If the set principles is a self trademark, it's also trademark for driver safety. Think
Ah,
about, we have a lot of these cute slogans, click a ticket, but none of them talk about the effect of emotions. Let's say you've left your home and had a fight with somebody, or you just got the bad news that your air conditioner's out and it's an $8,000 bill that you weren't expecting. Now you get behind the wheel of a car, you might be making some decisions based on emotion versus logic, right? So that, and the other benefit too is, let's say you're in customer service and you lose your cool with a customer. Think about how long it takes you to get back to work, to be productive, to be focused. If we could monetize, if we could come up with a number, the data, company-wide, nationwide, Fabio, what do you think that would be? Billions and billions of dollars of lost productivity from people losing their cool and the time it takes for them to bounce back. So this is a program everybody needs. I'm starting to work with other people who work with parents, because parents need to learn how to keep their cool to set the example for kids. There's really no limit to the applications for this program.
yeah, yeah. And I like it because it's simple, easy to remember, easy to understand and to apply. And that's what we need nowadays. We don't need complicated systems
Yes.
or diagrams, right, to try to understand and get through life. We need simple, easy to apply things that we can really put into action right now. So set principle is really amazing. I really like you can use it for leadership, you can use it for customer service, you can use it for negotiation, you can use it for parenting, you can use it in traffic, as you said, right? So it's amazing. And I hope everybody listening pays close attention to this and reach out to you because if they get to know, right, not only the principle, but the several ways to apply it as you teach throughout your workshop and the impact that can have in their lives, they would surely reach out to you, especially companies, because as you said, when people uh, lose their cool with the customers and it takes a while for them to get into the productive mode again. It's not only the hours, right? They're wasting unproductive hours, but also they can be losing clients or customers they would not lose if they use a set principle. So a
Exactly.
customer may have a lifetime value of 10,000, 20,000,
Correct.
$40,000.
I didn't think
So
about it from that perspective. You're right. Plus the health benefits. Think about it. If you're always losing your cool, guess what happens to your cortisol levels? Goes way up, and that leads to disease. All right. So I'm a living proof of that. Unfortunately, I went through a surprise divorce many years ago. Very stressful. Didn't see it coming. Totally upset my life. And guess what? Many women, after going through a stressful divorce, get breast cancer in 5 years. I'm a tough cookie. It took me 10 years, but I still got it. Yeah, I'm sure that added to it. So I want people to have better quality of life through their health, mental, physical, right? Because at the end of the day, if you haven't been losing your cool, you have more energy to go out for a walk with your family or go to the gym, right? And enjoy life. So it really is a 24/7 program. How about getting a better night's sleep? Guess what? One of the studies I read, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Challenger explosion, 1986. I was in a classroom at the time watching it. One of the contributing factors to that was the NASA managers were severely sleep deprived. So you lose your impulse control, you tend to exhibit riskier behavior. And you know what? This program can help you with that too, because if you're losing control all day, it's harder to get a good night's sleep. So it can help you. That's why I say 24/7 program.
perfect, perfect. I wanted to share with my audience now, Marcia. I know you personally, so I know the level of energy you bring to the table. Every meeting, you are this energetic, very positive thinker. Every time I see you, even when you have problems, and everybody has problems, right? Everybody has challenges. You spend like a few seconds complaining, but immediately you turn that thing around and you start saying nice things. You start, really producing nicer and more productive thoughts, right? So, what are the internal communication sentences you use? Because we have internal communication, right? The inner communication and out and communication with others. And I believe really that everything begins with inner communication. What
Yeah.
do you say to yourself when you're going through stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing would be, we're human beings. So sometimes those negative thoughts do enter. Is, how, if I'm starting to spend too much time, I say, okay, Marsha, how's that serving you? Are you accomplishing anything? Because typically it's a waste of time. You keep regurgitating whatever. What action can you take? Okay, let's turn this around and either drop it or determine where you're going to go. What action steps you're going to take? Like I had a friend who I felt wasn't treating me properly. So instead of just thinking, oh my God, I can't, I said, I need to sit down and send her a text message. Now, normally I would speak to somebody in person, but this person has a very short attention span. She's not a good listener. So I opened it up by saying, I felt this would be better. You'd have time to read and reread and reflect upon it. So this is a way of dealing with it and not carrying it around with me. Take an action step. Now, sometimes you need to speak to somebody else about that action step and get advice because you may still not be in a rational point to really do that action. So it's good to have a good friend who will listen, not just advising you. So find a friend who's a good listener. Sometimes we just need to vent, and the person will say things like, oh, I'm sorry you're going through that. What are your options here? What do you think you should do? That's a great active listener. We don't want somebody interrupting us and saying, well, maybe you should do that, or maybe that person was right and you were wrong. There are times when we need to know when we want somebody to assist and say, I really need your assistance. So part of communication is really active listening skills. The Chinese have a great symbol for active listening because we think of listening as ears. It's 4 parts: the ears, the eyes, the heart, and undivided attention. And the undivided attention, is like with cell phones, we know it's really hard. It's really hard to get. Yeah, especially with audience members who want to keep their phones on. Yeah.
I want to emphasize what you just said about, well, first, the question you ask yourself, how is this serving me, right? So, this is a very powerful question to ask yourself when you're going through that spiral cycle of, let's say, victimizing yourself, right? Oh, I'm a victim of the world. So how is this serving me? How is this serving me? So that question immediately stops you right there, and you stop behaving like a victim and you start asking better questions to get out of that place, right? So I really enjoyed that. I think this is a very powerful tip for our audience here. And the other part of what you said that is beautiful is, uh, uh, you know, sometimes we need to just vent. Sometimes we just need somebody to listen to us. And we have to have these humble wisdom to ask for help and and tell the person, listen, I I need a listener now. I need someone that could listen to me. Okay, I don't need suggestions. I don't need advice. I just need someone who can really listen to me. Are you up to that? And by introducing the conversation like that, you already place that person in a more comfortable position of, okay, I'm here to listen and to support you. I'm not obligated to come up with advice because many people don't listen to us because they're afraid they don't have a good thing to say, right? They don't have a good advice to give. But if you tell them, listen, I'm here just to vent, I need you to listen to me, maybe it's even better. You're setting the stage for the other person to really listen to you with those 4 elements you just said. So it's
Yeah.
a good strategy.
Right. It's very difficult today, I think, with all the distractions we have. I was just reading an article by one of our fellow speakers, Doug Manuel, and he said about people who are attending events that he noticed that all these executives are coming in and they're still dealing with the flight that maybe they missed and getting their baggage that got lost and the emails and the phones of getting them into a position where they're receptive to hearing the message of the speaker. Often keynote speakers get paid a nice amount of money. And it would be a shame for that audience to not receive the powerful message that speaker has. So to kind of set the tone, maybe some music, some meditation, something to help people de-stress first, because we have a million things going on at the same time. I look back to the days when I grew up before all the technology, and wow, The world is a lot different. That's for sure. That's
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
would say that we must be better communicators now than we used to be before, right? Because now we have to fight against all that divided attention, and we need to be better speakers that we used to be. So that's good for us because we have to keep evolving and growing and overcoming our all these challenges ahead of us now.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. But you're right. You're right. Nowadays, people need more guidance to get into the right space in their head to learn. So we as speakers, we need to set the stage. We need to put everybody in the same frequency before we even start spreading the message or sharing the message with them. We need to do something before we start talking or we start sharing what we know to help everybody focus and be concentrated.
So, what tips would you say that you have developed over the years being on the stage? What are some things you do before you get on the stage to relax yourself or get yourself in the right frame of mind?
Well, some things we have discussed already. Before going to the stage, I really remind myself that I'm here to serve and make a difference. I'm not here to prove that I'm good, right? I'm here to serve. So I want to be useful and I want to really add value to my audience. So I think about my audience. I think about the problems they want to resolve. I think about how my solutions can help them solve those problems. And I really get on the stage with this thought. I'm here to serve and add value. And that relaxes me because I don't have to be perfect to make a difference. I just have to serve with my full heart and my purest intention to add value. So that relaxes me and help me really focus.
I love that. And that really goes along with my tip about writing out the word message. You're dealing with that. I also have some other suggestions for people. You don't have to be a keynote speaker to benefit from this. Is uh, think about the time before any presentation, whether it's virtual or in person. I have this cute on my LinkedIn page under Express Yourself Communications. It was a few weeks ago. I have a chart about several things you can do to maintain your energy before you speak, such as not doing anything that's going to create stress. And if I want to call up Comcast and debate my bill and get it lower, chances are it's going to be a negative experience. It's not going to be a happy thing. So I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to. I want to maybe call up somebody, a best friend who's going to have something wonderful to say to me. I don't want to do anything that's going to create a distraction, lower my energy. And then right before, you can do power poses, which you stand with your hands on your hip for a few minutes, or I create something a lot of fun. And I think you've seen it before, Fabio. It's called the silent primal scream. All right, so this is a lot of fun. And actually, if you go to my website, xprself.com, and just scroll down a little bit from the fold, you'll see a picture of a real picture from a workshop I did. Everybody's doing the silent primal scream. All right, so I get everybody standing up. And again, you can do this on your own. You don't need a group. And you actually stand up straight with your legs about hip width apart and put your arms up in the air. So it's a little hard to do in the camera. Imagine I'm standing up, my arms are in the air. And then you think about all the negativity that's probably stuck down in your stomach and think about drawing it out. Now, I say silent scream because we don't want to scream out loud and someone will call 911. We have enough things going on. So it's silent, but you really need to feel it. So you go, and when everybody's done, what happens is they start smiling. When you look at the image on my website, you see everybody's authentically smiling. I didn't say, we're taking a picture, smile. This is exactly how they react. And what happens now, you look around the room, everyone's smiling, and you automatically feel so much more relaxed. And laughter in itself gives you a hit of dopamine. That's a feel good chemical. And smiling gives you that as well. Or listening to upbeat music is another thing you can do. Do a little dance before you go and do your Zoom session or your live presentation. So these are really useful tips because everybody gets a little bit nervous. Do you know that John Lennon used to throw up before every performance? JFK and Winston Churchill were afraid of public speaking. All right, so don't feel badly if you have it. It's just that we're going to move past that.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of people think that speakers are born speakers, right? And that's not the case. I was a stutterer, so until 18, I couldn't really speak. And
And
I'm
King
a
George, and King George, you know that
King
famous,
George,
yeah, King
beautiful
George.
movie.
King's Speech, great video, great movie. Everybody should watch that. Absolutely. So look, you're living proof, right? A movie is one thing, but we see you and we see that you excelled. I think it was Les Brown was told he was retarded as this kid, but he had one teacher who said, I think he'd be a good public speaker. And when he went home and told his family, they laughed at him. You're going to be a speaker? And here he's like a multi-millionaire, world known speaker, right? We can't let our past dictate our future, that's for sure. And I've seen that many times. I taught college level public speaking for many years. And I'll never forget the one student who took me aside beginning first class. She said, there's no way I can give a speech. Can I do extra credit? And I looked her in the eye and said, I haven't lost one yet, and you're not going to be the first. She ended up being the best speaker in the class. I'll never forget her last speech. I tried to get her to call me after class. I said, you actually have the potential to be a professional speaker, right? And so it was a combination of factors. The fact that I, of course, gave her the tools, but she was able to see that there could be a different future for herself. And when she left the class with a big smile on her face, everybody congratulating her, that's a moment I'll never forget. So as a teacher, coach, trainer, we live for that. We live for the person who says, what you said to me meant so much. My life changed because of it. What a beautiful result to get when you do a program.
Yeah, that is very rewarding, actually. And no, you're right on. We as speakers, coaches, consultants, we really live for this reward, having changed somebody's life, right, or business. So it's a great reward when somebody comes to us or write to us saying, "Listen, because of that speech, because of that course, because of that program, I changed my life. I'm in a happier, richer place now because of you, what you share with me." This is really, really gratifying.
Right. So in your case with
Marsha,
sales too, with sales. I mean, when
yeah,
salespeople take my training as well, they're more confident, feel better about themselves because salespeople have a lot of self-doubt, right? And if they get rejected too many times, then they need that confidence as well. And so their sales are going to go up.
that's right. Marsha, now we have talked about so many things. I want you to try to summarize in three main tips you can share with the audience here. What can they do to feel more confident, be a better communicator, achieve more peace and results in life? Three main tips. I know we haven't planned this, so I
All
know
right.
it's a challenge.
Gosh. Okay. Three
Yeah,
main.
how will you summarize the three main tips for them?
Okay, and I think number one, do a little self-reflection, find out the areas that are really troubling you. In some cases, I've worked with people who something happened in their childhood and they somehow didn't realize it, and that actually dictated their future. I had one executive who said, I never feel like I'm worthy enough of the position I have. And it turned out his father was verbally and emotionally abusive. So sometimes you have to do a little self-introspection, perhaps ask close family members or friends around us what they've observed, what they see. Maybe they see something we don't. It's a hidden area in our Johari window, right? We need to examine that. The second thing is to always use the visualization technique. When I was going through that surprise divorce after 20 years of marriage, as traumatic as it was for me, I was able to see to the future to know something could be different. My present wasn't my future. You have to have the ability, don't get stuck thinking the way I feel today is the way I'm always going to feel. And number three, you have to own your power. So I have on my website page, as I call the Own Your Power public speaking skill. So once you feel that you own your power, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take that away from you. And that's a great feeling. No matter what you go through in life, you always have your self-esteem. You always feel good about yourself. Doesn't mean we're not going to have challenges, but we're in a much better position to handle those challenges when we feel good about ourselves and we don't let anybody else get in our way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Marsha, tell me, please, if people want to reach out to you, what is the best way they can reach out to you?
Okay, so my email address is just the first initial of my name. You see on the screen, Marsha Freedman, so M Freedman at xprself.com. You can go to either my website, xprself.com, or set principal. By the way, the principal ends in PLE. It's not your high school principal. It's an enduring truth, right? And if you want to give me a call, if you're looking to schedule perhaps a consulting or just give me a call to really have a little introductory chat, you can call me at 954-249-7745. Now, I'm based here in South Florida. If you are here, I'd love to meet people in person. If not, happy to work with you virtually.
All right. And of course, everybody, all the links, emails, websites that she mentioned will be in the description of the video, below
Okay.
the video here, so you can click and go directly to the place. All right. Marsha, I want to thank you again for being here with me, for
Thank you for inviting
sharing
me.
all
Yeah.
those beautiful ideas, very practical tips that can help my audience to be better in life and business. I really appreciate, and that's why you are fabulous, because you have
Yeah.
the servant heart and the willingness to help, to really make a difference in people's lives. Thank you once again.
Thank you. My pleasure. And by the way, if somebody ever gives you a compliment, don't say yeah, but say thank you very much. I really appreciate it because both parties get a hit of dopamine.
That's another great tip. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Fabulous with Fabio, with my guest today, Marsha Freedman. I'm Fabio Marques, president of the International Excellence Society. We are here to serve and make your life better. Be consistent with everything you do, believe in yourself, and keep moving forward. I see you next time. Talk to you soon, guys.